Most people are operating by rules that they never even chose. And it's the rules that they didn't choose, but also they're operating on beliefs that probably aren't even theirs. They wake up, they go to work, they're chasing dreams that are typically by default, not by design. And they are a lot of times, in my experience, they're, goals or these dreams that they adopt from the industry that they're in, right? Or their friends, their environment, their social circles that aren't even theirs to begin with. And so most of us, we wake up, we go to work, we chase goals, we chase our dreams, and we never stop to ask ourselves, who made these rules and why am I following them? And the craziest part about this is that most of these rules are completely fake. They're walls in a maze that don't even exist. So I just wrapped up a meeting with my sales team and I utilized this analogy. I said, hey, imagine that we have a path, somewhat like this. And at this side, we have a point A, and over here, we have a nice little point B, okay? And I asked my team, I said, hey, look, if I asked you to go from point A to point B on this diagram, explain to me the best pathway. Explain to me how your mind thinks about getting from point A to point B, utilizing what I have here in front of you. And I heard everything from, I'll hug the inside of the track and that would be the fastest route, or, I'd swing from the outside to the inside here, and just like all these different strategic things. But what I showed them is I said, hey, look, what if we just did this? And they were like, well, you wouldn't be on the path. And I said, that's exactly my point. In life, we have all of these societal pressures. We have the people in our, in our circle, if you will. We have the things we learn in school, and just all of these ideas that we need to operate in this particular way. But it's just a paradigm. It's just a way of thinking. So we hear all these things about like, this is how it's done. This is the right path. This is how we should navigate, the journey. But we don't have to accept those rules. And so most of our lives, we end up operating like sheep, following a path that we, again, have made up in our minds, or that other people have made up in our minds. And that's the danger of it, is you could end up living an entire life by default. So let me tell you guys a little story around an experience that I had just a few years ago. A few years ago, I was approached in my roofing company from a group of companies that had already banded together. I was kind of one of the last guys, late to the party. I think I was company 17 of maybe 19 companies in total that banded together. And the idea was great. We're going to build this billion-dollar enterprise. We're going to eventually IPO. That's when the markets were doing much better than they are today. And it actually seemed like a really good dream. I was selling myself that like, hey, this is how things are played at the next level. And to some degree that there was some truth to it. But the issue was that everybody was so focused on that IPO. They were thinking about, how am I personally going to win from this situation? And so they were playing what I call a finite game. They were thinking that there was an end point to what we were building. Every conversation that I was having with people, every meeting, every event we were having as a company was all about the IPO. It was all about the liquidity event. What are you going to do, next? Instead of thinking like, how can we build a solid foundation? How can we build something that has real legs on it that can outlast all of us? And so what happened is that nobody was focused on building the processes or the systems or the consistency or removing risk from the business. It all became about the IPO. And when everyone's counting the score on a scoreboard, again, that doesn't even exist, they start to cut corners, they start to work on side projects, and they start to deviate from the plan in front of them. They start to get the shiny object syndrome. They start to look at the lady in the red dress, for those of you that are familiar with the movie Matrix. It's like we just are not focused on building something, and we get away from the idea or lose track of the idea that in order to build something great, in order to build a platform like we were trying to do as a group of companies, we have to have brutal and violent focus on what we're actually building. And eventually that whole thing collapsed. And it wasn't because we didn't have rockstar people, because we did. We had over 300 employees, and most of those operators came from 10, 15, $20 million companies from their respective markets. We also had a beautiful model in the beginning, right? We were light years ahead of anyone else doing roll-ups in the roofing industry. We were, steps ahead of private equity, steps ahead of all the Wall Street guys that have now moved into our industry. But the problem was, or the issue from my perspective, is that we were playing an infinite game, a game that isn't supposed to end. It's just, the idea is to keep playing, but we were playing by finite rules. And here's what I mean by finite versus infinite. And so when I think of a finite game, I'm thinking of things that have a definitive set of rules and like a start and a finish. And so, we're playing by a set of rules. We have a certain set of players, and there is a clear winner and a clear loser. Pretty much any sports game. So football, boxing, even something like chess would be considered like a finite game. There's a beginning point and an end point. But an infinite game is something that has an evolving set of rules. The players can come and players can go. And I think of infinite games like, marriage or love, right? The game is not to win marriage. Right? There shouldn't be an end point. And the same kind of goes with business. It's like the point of the game is to keep playing. And so our entire life is kind of an infinite game. But just like I explained a couple minutes ago about how, all of the people inside of my roll-up, the merger and acquisition we did, were playing by finite rules in an infinite game. That's the biggest issue. And so a lot of business owners that I talk to, they think if I just can get to this particular milestone in business, right? I sell this big job, or I hit the $10 million mark, or whatever that is for you, they think that they're just gonna be at the top of the mountain, like holding the trophy. And that's just not the case. Even when guys get to the point of packaging up the business and selling it, you're not going to go sit Mai Tais on the beach for the rest of your life. That's not how these infinite games work of business, or like business, I should say. The fact of the matter is that you either get removed from the game, you could quit, but more than likely you just continue on. And the people that can continue on, they're the guys that end up building the massive wealth. They are the ones that end up with the legacy and all of the freedom that we even start these businesses for in the first place. You can really see all of this coming to life all across the industry right now. So we've got private equity companies that are coming into our industry, and they're foaming at the mouth for service-based businesses, which of course as roofing companies we are. But there's really two things that they're looking for. They're looking for the high tickets, yes, right? They want the big dollar amounts for the re-roofs, but they actually care more about the recurring revenue. And I'll tell you what they're not looking for though. They're not looking for owner-dependent hustles where like the owner has to touch every part of the business just to make the wheel spin. They're not looking for companies that just get the transactional payday. And they're definitely not looking for companies that aren't systemized to the point where they don't have an operating system, a CRM, and or clean financials. Long story short, they're looking for companies that are trying to play the infinite game, right? They are looking for the businesses that are built to continue on. And that's my entire point. If you build a business that is built to continue on beyond you, then you might not only be able to sell that business, right? It's a sellable asset, but you can also get multiple bites of the apple. So like you might sell part of the business, but since that business is built to continue on, for every liquidity event, if you structure your deal properly upon exit, you can actually get financial liquidity events, or basically get paid multiple times as that business either grows or sells to the next person. But let's go a bit deeper, because the infinite game isn't just about the business strategy or the money or even just doing the work. It's also about what the work does to you. It's going to break you. It's going to reshape you and remake you. They're a mirror and a mountain. Like the mirror is there to reflect back all of your blind spots, your flaws, your ego, all of the things that honestly you'd probably rather ignore. I know I would. But then it's also a mountain to show you this is how you're going to be stretched. This is the next level. These are the other things that you need to face, ultimately making you a better person than you were yesterday. So the belief at the end of the day that I want to transfer to you is essentially that, look, it's not all about, building this or building that or the trophy that you're going to get while you're standing at the peak and the crowd's cheering for you. It's more about building the person that can achieve all of those things. And so all of the money, all of the freedom, the legacy that you're going to leave behind, they're just byproducts of the person that we're building along the way. At the end of the day, it's all about building skills. And the more skills you build, the more opportunities you have. The more opportunities you have, the better the person that you have to become to be able to serve those opportunities. And so if you found this helpful, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your input on what this did for you, what feelings this brought up. And if you guys want to have a conversation, come find me on social media. I love to chat everything roofing entrepreneurship, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.